Hello, I am Josh. I'm a food stylist here at Taste of Home, and today I'm going to walk you through the step-by-step process of making your own homemade cinnamon rolls. There's hardly anything more rewarding than warm cinnamon rolls right out of the oven. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is dissolve my active dry yeast in some warm milk. It's important that the temperature of the milk be the right temperature, which is somewhere between 110 and 115 degrees. If it's too warm, it can kill the yeast. If it's too cold, it won't activate quickly. So I'm just going to take the temperature of my milk here, and we are good. So I'm going to go ahead and add my yeast and give it a stir. A packet of yeast is about 2 teaspoons. So while my yeast activates, I'm going to set this aside and add my other ingredients to the mixer. I've added 2 cups of flour to my bowl mixer here, and I'm going to add my sugar and salt. Give that a little stir. That just helps distribute all the dry ingredients together. This recipe calls for 4 cups of flour. I'm only adding 2 at the beginning. That does 2 things. It allows you to easily incorporate all the ingredients, but then you might not need the total amount of flour in the recipe. So I'm going to add a little bit at a time until I have the right texture for my dough. Next comes my wet ingredients. So I've got some butter. I'm going to add 2 eggs, and then I'm going to add my yeast. You can see that the yeast has bubbled up on top. That means it's nice and happy. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to my bowl, and then we start mixing. I'm going to add my paddle attachment at the beginning, and then eventually I'll probably switch to a dough hook. So you can see how easily that stirs together with just the 2 cups of flour. I'm going to turn this off and scrape down my bowl. Scraping down the sides of your bowl, just make sure that you don't miss anything that's not thoroughly incorporated. All right, my initial mixture has come together. I'm going to slowly start adding the remaining 2 cups of flour, and I'm going to show you what that dough looks like when it's ready. As you can see, I did switch to that dough hook. I ended up incorporating all of the 4 cups of flour, so I did need all of it for that dough to come together. You can see that it's pulling away from the sides of the bowl as it's mixing, and that's how you know it's ready to use. But be warned, this is a sticky dough. Now that the dough has been mixed together, the next step is to knead. So I'm going to turn this out onto a lightly floured surface, and then I'm going to knead. This process will take about 6 to 8 minutes. Now remember, this dough is very sticky, so I'm going to flour my hands and the surface of the dough as well. I also have a bench scraper here. That's just going to help me get it off the surface until it gets smooth and elastic. The dough has come together nicely. You can see just how much the texture has changed. It is smooth, it is elastic, and you can see that it's no longer sticky. So you just have to be patient as you're kneading, adding a little bit of flour at a time as necessary until your dough reaches this proper texture. So I like to roll my dough into a little ball, and then when you poke it with your finger, it should bounce back, and that's how you know your dough is done. I'm going to place my prepared dough inside a lightly oiled bowl, and I'm going to turn that to coat both the dough and the bowl. This just helps to keep the dough from sticking as it rises. Next, I'm just going to cover it with a towel and place it in a warm spot. My dough has risen nicely. Next thing I'm going to do is just gently deflate this or punch the dough down. Okay, it's deflated. I'm going to sprinkle a little flour on the surface and then turn my dough out onto the flour. The next thing for me to do is divide this dough in half. I'm just going to use my bench scraper and cut it down the middle. If you are particular, you can of course weigh this portion of dough, make sure they're both the same. I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to set this portion of dough aside and cover it so it doesn't dry out, and then I'm going to roll out this one. Add a little bit more flour, cover the surface and my hands just so nothing sticks. I'm going to roll this into an 11 by 8 inch rectangle. Keeping the dough moving on the surface just ensures that it doesn't stick and also allows you to add more flour as needed. And if you need to, you can use your fingers and gently pat that dough to help you reach that rectangle shape. I like to have a dedicated kitchen ruler on hand for just such occasions. And I'm about right with my 11 by 8 inch rectangle. So the next step is to brush this dough with some melted butter. That'll help the cinnamon sugar mixture adhere to the dough. I'm gonna leave about a 1/2 inch border around the dough that is not covered with butter. And next, I'm gonna take my brown sugar, I'm gonna stir in my cinnamon, and then half of this goes on the dough. Okay, I'm gonna spread half of my brown sugar cinnamon mixture onto the dough. I'm gonna save the second half for the second portion of dough. This recipe makes 16 cinnamon rolls, so it feeds a crowd. I'm just gonna gently press that cinnamon sugar mixture into the butter just to make sure that it adheres nicely. And now it's time to roll. I'm gonna start back here at the long end of the dough and working my way along. I'll give it a nice tight roll, just like a jelly roll. And when I reach the end, I'm going to take that bare portion of dough, I'm just going to pinch it together. That will help your cinnamon rolls stay closed as they proof and bake. See how easy that was? So now I'm just going to roll that seam side down, and it's time to cut this into individual rolls. I'm going to trim off my rough edges. You don't get a very good roll with that. And that'll give you a nice clean shaped roll. So now I'm just going to divide this into 8 portions, starting in the middle, and then just divide each portion in half as you go. Now that I have my rolls done, it's time to place them in my prepared greased baking pan. My first 8 rolls are in the pan. I'm going to cover these and let these rise while I work on my second batch. Wow, these cinnamon rolls have risen beautifully. It's time to put these in the oven. They bake at 350 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes or until they're golden brown. While my cinnamon rolls cool behind me, I am going to make the icing that goes on top. It's very simple. First thing I'm going to do is cream my butter and cream cheese together. Make sure it's nice and fluffy before I add the rest of the ingredients. As you can see, the butter and cream cheese is nice and fluffy, so I'm going to add some other ingredients now. I'm going to add some vanilla and then just a little bit of salt. The salt will help balance out all the sweetness with the confectioner's sugar. Next, I'm going to add some confectioner's sugar, a little bit at a time. I like to slowly incorporate my confectioner's sugar instead of doing it all at once. It's a little less messy that way. My yummy cream cheese frosting is now ready to use. While these cinnamon rolls are just a little bit warm, I'm going to start spreading on my cream cheese frosting. And while they're warm, it'll just get nice and gooey. Sometimes I think the cinnamon rolls are just a vehicle for the cream cheese frosting. As you can see, with just a little bit of advanced planning and some patience, you can have some delicious, warm, fresh baked cinnamon rolls at home that are sure to be a hit. Thanks for watching.